So my name's Peter Turnbull. I was one of the founders of Sydney FC, shareholder number one in fact. Sydney FC started from a blank sheet of paper, or in fact from the first board meeting, a blank whiteboard in Walter Buno's boardroom, and there were the shareholders at that stage were myself, the Lowy Family Trust, Anthony Lapalia, and the first board meeting was attended by Walter, myself, Lou Sticker, Scott, Michael perhaps, I'm not sure, and yeah, it took place in Walter's boardroom, and then we had to sort out how to create a football club from absolutely nothing, in a situation where, from some elements of the New South Wales football community, we weren't welcome, because there was that feeling that we were usurpers of the huge tradition that had taken place before us with the likes of Marconi and Sydney United.
How did you deal with that?
We painted Frank's Dream, which was one city, one club, getting united behind the city, not being elements of the city and divisive elements of the city, and we just had to act as though we were the catalyst behind the football revolution and behind trying to get the entire city behind one club, which I think we finally succeeded in doing.
So when you had that blank sheet of paper, what was the first thing on the agenda? Was it the head coach? Was it the club crest? Was it where we're going to play?
First thing we wanted was the team. So we engaged Lou Sticker to help recruit the team, and he did a fantastic job. That team in year one, I think we had 3 or 4 active Socceroos in the team.
In terms of like shirt colours, crest colours, and that sort of thing, who decided that it would be the sky blue?
Sky blue, because that was New South Wales, and one city, one team. We wanted to have a unifying colour. The Opera House was iconic, obviously, so that was included, and the orange tint was a nod to our Indigenous forebears.
How did you go about creating a fan base, creating sort of loyalty? Basically,
they came to us about how to do it, which was Ned Negus. Came with us, and then Grant Newell, about establishing an ultra. And Ned wanted to call it the Ultras, but of course the Ultras has a pretty average connotation in Europe, so we scuttled that. And Sydney Cove is the home of Sydney, so it just became the Cove. So that was, and having an active fan base really generated a lot of excitement, because not really done all over the world, but not so much done in Australia before, to that extent. And then of course, through David Lowy, we got Jimmy Barnes to write and sing the anthem. David Lowy was playing guitar. That was recorded in the Fox Studios. I remember being there for that, and that's an exciting song.
And why Allianz Stadium, or as it was called then, the Sydney Football Stadium, or maybe Aussie Stadium, I think, at the time? Well,
the original bid was Parramatta Stadium. That was the original bid, because that was the geographical centre of Sydney. A lot of the great Socceroos and a lot of the inherent football supporters were in Western Sydney, so it was originally thought of to be at Parramatta. We were encouraged instead to go to the centre of Sydney, and I think that was part of Frank's grand plan, that he always thought would have another team in Sydney and they'll play at Parramatta, which is what happened. We decided to call ourselves Sydney FC. It was Walter's idea, and Walter of course built brands. That was his whole career, is building brands. And he came to that first board meeting and said, look, we're Sydney. We don't need a name. We just need Sydney FC, Sydney Football Club. We're just Sydney. We're the greatest city in the world. We're just going to call it Sydney. And I think that proved to be a masterstroke.
Was it the coach first? Was it the players first? The marquee?
We had various interviews with some of the best coaches in the world. So it wasn't a matter of, here's Pierre, let's pick Pierre. Pierre had to participate in a pretty extensive selection process. Included interviews, wining and dining of several current and former Premier League coaches. So it was, pretty high-profile coach is what we were going for. And the preparation for the interviews that Pierre did, almost writing a book for the interview about how these players were going to play, what system he had, how he was going to win things, was very compelling. Yes, very German. So that was good. And the players, as I say, Lou nominated lots of players. Lou and Walter particularly were heavily involved in who the players would be. They'll then be presented to the board. It was all about getting the right people in the right places with the right attitude. And we built a very, very strong club spirit from that point, because that kind of spirit and that commitment comes from the top. You can't just rely on the supporters to have it, or the players. Everybody has to have that. And we were successful in doing that. One of the big decisions was the marquee player. I remember being in the boardroom with the whiteboard and writing up what people were suggesting. And what the comments were, he has to have played in the Premier League, because Australians all know the Premier League. And we're trying to go beyond the old clubs, we're trying to get new football. So we had to get a Premier League player. That was number one. Then we decided number two, must have played for someone famous, such as Man United, Arsenal, etc. The next thing we wrote on the board was, must have won something. Preferably the Premier League, but won something. And the last thing was, had to be an international. So give it some real street credibility. And I can't remember who it was, but someone said, Dwight Yorke comes here for holidays every year. And we got him. And he launched the whole A-League. He didn't just launch Sydney FC. He launched the entire A-League. I remember going to one of the owners' meetings, and Perth had their promotional brochure there for the memberships. And on the front page it was, join Perth Glory, your only chance to see Dwight Yorke twice.
Yeah, and obviously the rest of the squad came together.
And the first players we were chasing were people like Steve Corica, Mark Rudin, etc., Sash Petrovsky. So we had targets pretty quick. There were some targets that we missed out on. Because in the A-League, in the NSL, there was a batch of about 10 excellent players, and all the clubs wanted those 10. So we missed out on Alex Brosk, first time round. Got him eventually, but he was in one of those group of 10 that every club was just after. Clint Bolton was another one, who we knew we desperately wanted to get. And then Lou came up with names that we weren't particularly familiar with, such as Ian Fife. I think at that stage was playing in Scotland, so Fifey ended up being a crucial member of the team.
What was the first sort of tournament or first game that we went to?
But we went on a stretch of, I think it was 23 wins in a row. From the pre-season, winning the qualifying tournament to go to the Oceania Cup, which was the Australian pre-season / qualifying cup. We won that, and then went to Tahiti. Had a great time in Tahiti. We won the final 2-0 from memory. And Pierre was very excited because he was going back to Japan, where much of his career was. And that gave us the right to then go to Japan for the World Club Championship. It was in December, so we played the first half of the competition, then went over there.
And obviously you mentioned it before, to in that first year, to actually go on then and win it. How did you feel?
Well, on the first day of the A-League, not the grand final, the first day of the A-League, I remember the day before we had an owners meeting, and first time I'd ever seen Frank Lowy nervous. And his attitude was, what if no one comes? Right? And I remember there was a media release or a media campaign on that second last, or the last day before the first game. Please come and see this new football. And I remember on that first day, I had a friend of mine take some photos. The crowds just kept on coming and coming and coming. And I remember we were in the chairman's lounge, and the Brisbane game was on TV, and we looked at the Brisbane thing, and the stadium at Suncorp was almost full. And we thought, this is unbelievable. And of course, it ended up being I think it was the second occasion where the SCG Trust eventually said, in the interests of safety, stop selling tickets, open the doors. There were so many people, they just let the people in. There was too many people to process tickets, and it was going to become dangerous when people couldn't get in. And we had people sitting on the stairs, so the ground was full, and then there were so many just in the stairs of the grandstand, people were sitting there, so they couldn't get a seat. So that was a phenomenal feeling. That was one of the greatest feelings in the whole journey. And I remember when Dwight scored that goal, me and Walter running to each other and hugging each other like two kids. So in the end, Adelaide won the premiership, and so I got knocked out by the Mariners for the grand final. So we played the Mariners, which is the smallest team in the smallest town with the smallest budget. We're in the grand final for the first ever A-League grand final. Another capacity crowd, another sellout, and of course Yorke setting up the winning goal, passing it back to Steve Corica to put in the far corner past Danny Vukovic. Remember it as that was yesterday. And the way that Yorke went into the box and attracted all of the Mariners defenders to him and just turned around, put it back to Steve Corica to score. It was just great football. Mind you, in that first 20 minutes, the Mariners could have scored 2 or 3 goals, but it was just not to be. It was Sydney's day. I mean, the result of us winning the grand final, winning the Australian qualifying tournament, winning the Oceania Cup, winning those 20-odd games in a row, it would just seem so surreal that all of our work had culminated in this moment of huge success, and it was great.